reality? Is it the possibility to imagine and to see this moment and go deep into a reality that we create all that can be? That magic and surprise I see in my child's eye, that high pitch in her voice, 'cause she knows she has a choice to fly out into space, to save the human race. We'll see it as complete with all the synchronicity. Universe, unified. Universe. To let go and hold on, to know that there's just one, that everything's for
Did you do that again?
no reason to make a fuss. Thank you, John Rosa. Thank you, Michael Malik.
Yes, thank you for that beautifully talented pair up here. And Monica Garcia Medina is incredibly creative and talented, and her beloved Bien is there with us. So yes! All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Center for Spiritual Living Morristown. I am Frankie Timmers, and I'm the spiritual director here, and we're meeting in-house, and we're meeting virtually. So I get to look in a camera, and I get to look at all of you, and together we create the blessing and the message of being spiritual community. So today we are wrapping up the July theme of Pulled by Vision with the topic Stay on Spirit. And we have Gail Belluardo blessing us with a spiritual practice today and an opening treatment and some poetry. And of course, Monica and Bien are doing the music for us. And the topic is about embracing what we've been talking about all month. Embracing the dance of life instead of fighting it. Can you already tell the difference between embracing life instead of fighting life? Yes, right? Because when we think about it, we get to make a choice. But much of that is not conscious. So we begin to become more conscious and notice how we are staying in spirit and how we are straying from spirit. And then I'm going to share a few ideas on how we can remember to stay in the truth. So we have a website, www.cslmorristown.org. Check it out. It's got all our events. It's got all kinds of goodies, all kinds of stuff to read. And it's a place where you can give many different ways. You can give today as well. We have baskets up here and in the back. You can text to give, my personal favorite, as I always say. It's so easy that I keep wanting to do it over and over and over again. And if you are on Facebook, we would love for you to make comments, ask questions, use the bubble, say hello to one another, share the information that is on there, all that good stuff. And of course, we are also on Twitter, Instagram, Meetup, all those good things. I have the Science of Mind magazine available for next month, so come and get it if you want to purchase that. I'm really loving the magazine this year with the themes, so they are for sale, but just come and get them from me. And if you're here for the first time, you get a free book. Woohoo! And we have a massive book sale going on, so this is a way to take a big stack home for a lot less. So now we get to have the blessing of Gail sharing some of her spiritual wisdom with us as she does the opening treatment and a little practice. Come on up, Gail.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So wonderful to be here in spiritual community, now in person and virtually. How awesome. So let's begin, as we always begin at the Center for Spiritual Living Morristown, with an opening treatment, which is our word for affirmative prayer. So if you like, you can join me and place your hands on your heart, or however you feel moved to hold yourself, knowing right here and right now that all of us are held by God. That there is this one supreme intelligence that is right here, right now, with me, with you, with all of us. It is infinite in its wisdom, it is infinite in its availability and its resourcefulness. And I know and I acknowledge its presence here this morning on this virtual live service that we are offering to you, knowing that what is offered to you is always offered through God. And so I bless our time together. I call it good, I call it holy, I call it sacred, I call it absolutely perfect the way it is, knowing that God is showing up perfectly for each one of us this morning, and wherever we are, knowing the highest and best for each of us. And so I release this word with absolute faith and joy into the universal law of life itself, and I know absolutely it is already done. And together we say, and so it is. Amen. So this morning we decided to mix it up a little bit, and we're going to do something, a spiritual practice for the beginning. And I just want to remind everyone who knows and who is open to knowing that in our teaching, we know that healing is simply the revealing of spiritual truth. And when we know that, we can be open to the greatest experience of healing in our lives in whatever area we desire. And so one of the ways that God has blessed us with this healing knowledge is that it's given us a thymus gland, a part of our very bodies that God has created that holds our immune system and is a portal for energy to bring in the divine. And so I'd like you to just notice that. Just tap right here, just touch right here and feel that you are connecting with divine spirit right here within you. And in this way, we know that God is right here within us. And one of the things that we believe in our teaching is that there is this I am presence. And there's a greater I am presence, which is the presence of God. It's God in all of its glory, all of its beingness, all of its activity. And we, as individualized expressions of God, have an individualized I am presence. And so I'd like you to perform a little practice with me of remembrance. And the remembrance is, I am here. So let's do that together. Let's do that together. I am here. Take a breath. This is your I am presence. This is the part of you that knows all the time that you are connected with God. Even when we forget, this part of us always remembers. And so I also would like to remind everyone that we believe also in the law of circulation. And the law of circulation has to do with the divine flow of life itself. Life always being given to us, whether we're aware of it, conscious it, or not. And so we simply decide, make a choice to pay attention. And as we pay attention, I would like to do this simple practice with you of bringing in the divine flow. So I will do it first, and then I'll ask you to join me. And it goes like this. I allow the divine flow. And as I allow the divine flow from spirit into my body, my form, I allow that energy of divine flow to flow into my heart, out through my heart space, all around me. And then I share it with everyone. And as I share it with everyone, knowing this divine law of circulation, it comes back to me multiplied. And as it comes back to me, I bring it forth into my being, and then I return it to source. So it's a simple practice of remembrance. And now, want to do it with me?
Yes.
Okay? Okay. So repeat after me. I allow the divine flow.
I allow the divine flow.
It's filling you up, expanding out into the universe, to everyone here and beyond, all that goodness. And then in the in-breath, bring it back in. Energize and multiply abundantly. And then we send it back up to God. And now the next affirmation is, I bring in the divine flow.
I bring in the divine flow.
Through the heart, expanding out, circulating it through the law of circulation to everyone, farthest recesses of the universe. It becomes magnified abundantly, returns to us, magnetized back to us. As it comes back to us, it flows into us, through us, and back up to God. And now the next affirmation is, I live in the divine flow.
I live in the divine flow.
Coming in, expanding through the heart, moving out, reaching the farthest recesses of all life, magnified and magnified and magnetized back to us, right back. Back to the heart, and then back to God. You see where this is going, how it feels? Breathe in again. Now, I am the divine flow.
I am the divine flow.
Filling your heart, expanding out to the farthest recesses of the universe. All of God's goodness. It becomes magnified and then magnetized back to us, bringing forth into our heart space and back to God. And then just rest your hands and take a nice deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth, and just feel that energy that you have attracted by virtue of your intention and your desire to be more God, to allow more God in you. And that's something so simple you can do anytime you want. Anytime you feel tight or constricted or afraid, you just bring it in and expand it out. And don't worry about giving it out, because when you give it out, it just magnifies and then it gets magnetized back to you. And that's the divine law of circulation. In the giving is the receiving. Alrighty? And I'd like to close with a poem from Kabir, a 15th century Indian Sufi mystic poet. And this is about you and God. The Lord itself is a guest in your heart. Why are you still so desperately seeking him? Offer your whole heart to it, to God, before night darkens it. How many eons you've waited for this momentous chance. Go near now to God's heart. Offer yourself selflessly. It will give you an ocean of ecstasy and explain to you its very self, love's mysteries and its essence.
that combination of a little rocker energy and some ancient classical music. Woo-hoo! And I love that you do that together, because as a couple, to bring your own gifts and talents is just magical. So thank you. So this month, we continue to explore this idea that spiritual principle is everywhere. It's in everything, everyone, all the time. And isn't it interesting how we forget? Maybe that's on purpose. Because when we were born into the world of duality, we were given the absolute freedom to live our lives the way we choose, because none of us are robots, none of us are mechanical. We're each unique, individualized expressions of the one. And so we learn this month that principle, truth, essence, God, grace, universe, whatever you call that one constant in life, love maybe, is everywhere present in everything, everyone, all the time. And we're here to remember that and then to live it. And so that's the creative process, period. That's how the creative process works. There's a power within us. There's an energy within us that is ever available. We're already using it. And to become conscious of how we're using it and use it for good and for our evolution. So that dance that I've been talking about just reminds us that nothing is ever outside of us. We might think we're going to find something out there that we want, but it first has to be a receptivity, a welcoming within our own consciousness, a receptivity within us. Or there's a block, it can't come. It's that magnetic activity that's taking place that Gail so beautifully shared. And so what we discover then is this dance of life that we're all experiencing is just simply the dance between remembering, forgetting, remembering, forgetting, remembering, forgetting. The more we are on a conscious spiritual path, the more the remembrance happens and the more quickly. You might have noticed on the spiritual path, on your own spiritual path, that when you truly practice, when you're truly committed to being a conscious human being, you might notice that you forget less often. And that when you forget, it's not as long, right? And so the beauty then about that dance is that we have to embrace it. Because the human tendency is to fight it. We fight inside our own mind, inside our head all the time. I mean, have you noticed that there's often a fight going on? That fight will block your good, not to mention your own spiritual evolution. So the idea is to just stop fighting it, just to embrace it. Oh, there for the grace of God go I forgot I'm a spiritual being. Oh, thank you, universe, for showing me that I just forgot for a moment. To just have fun with it, to bring a little joy into it, to laugh at yourself more than curse at yourself, to remember to just be a little bit more light, a little bit more lighthearted. Are we having a microphone thing?
Yeah, your microphone.
Oh,
Yeah, still hear you pretty well.
okay,
Give it
I
a
can
little
just
boost.
take this.
You want to take it there?
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right. So the whole metaphor that I used last week about are you hanging out on the surface of the ocean where the waves are crashing and you're just being thrown around by life? Or are you deeper into the ocean of truth and you are experiencing that truth invitation that is ever calling us to be more peaceful, to be more compassionate, to be more patient, to be more loving, to be more compassionate with ourselves. And so what we know is that that dance is always leading us to the same place. It's always leading us to a place of remembrance. So we can either go kicking or screaming, or we can surrender and trust, right? And so the other part of that is when we fight, what we're saying is life is against me. The more we fight within our own minds, within our own hearts, within our own lives, the more we forget that it's a beautiful dance that is ever awakening us to our essential nature. The more we fight and the more we struggle, the more we suffer, the more blocked we are, which then shows up in our health, it shows up in our wealth, it shows up in our relationships. So what if we lived knowing that there's nothing ever happening against us? That everything is always happening for us and for our good. I think we would tell a completely different story. The first story we would stop telling is how poorly we were conditioned and raised. We'd stop telling that story because that was for us, not against us. If we tell the story that it's happening against us, we're just setting up our own roadblocks to our greater good. When we know that everything is happening for us, we're saying, oh, I remember there's a principle that's working within me that is available to me. Oh, I know that there's a greater truth that wants to be remembered, that wants to be lived. Oh, I remember that I can grow in faith instead of just have more fear. It invites us to really notice the beliefs that we carry that are against us or limiting us, or where we believe in lack, or we believe that the world is out to get us. And it's just noticing it, like, oh, I just noticed this person cut me off. I'm going to chase them down and give them the finger, which is what I used to do. Until I realized it wasn't personal. Actually, nothing is personal. Nothing. The moment we believe something is personal and somebody says or does something against us, just notice it, because it sets up the forgetting. And when we forget, we suffer. So the question then is, do I stay on truth? Do I stay on the remembering? Do I stay on spirit? Or do I stray? Well, the good news is we all stray. And the even better news is that we can make a choice to stay on the truth. So think about some ways that you stray from the truth. Just think for a moment, because I'm going to ask you in a minute. I know for myself that I stray when I don't feel good, which has been pretty common in the last few months, going through a health challenge. And so it's been incredibly humbling, because it's had to slow me down to remember that my body doesn't get to decide how I feel. I decide in my heart and my mind how I feel. So that means that sometimes I have to surrender and go to bed and go to sleep. That means that sometimes I have to call a prayer partner or a practitioner because I forget that there's a holy healing going on and that what my body is showing me is not the truth. The greater truth is that spirit is healing me. That's why I had an acronym for chemo. Christ in me heals every molecule omnipotently. Wow. That was a choice. It was not easy to get to that choice. It's not easy to end up with bruises all over my body and all kinds of other symptoms, which I will tell you one of these days what all the symptoms have been that were telling me to suffer and to lose faith and to believe in lack and limitation and say, no, because I truly know what chemo is. It's Christ in me healing every molecule of manipulatively. That's all it is, right? And so no matter what you have going on, whether it's financial or relational or career-wise, or just your personal war that you're having with yourself, it is for you and for your evolution, and you can choose to look at it any way you choose to, and the way you look at it will become your experience. So it behooves us to really notice, what am I thinking? What do I believe? What is that about? And how can I flip it so that it works for me instead of against me? Life is such a mystery, isn't it? And so what happens when you stray? Just shout it out. When you stray and you forget you're a spiritual being and you have at your source a spiritual power that you can use to support you, what happens when you stray?
Self-righteousness.
Self-righteousness causes us to stray. Yes, me too. Yeah.
Fear.
Fear causes us to stray. Yes.
Depression.
Depression causes us to stray.
Anxiety.
Doubt, anxiety,
Frustration.
frustration. Yeah. Huh?
Overwhelm.
Overwhelm. Yeah, so those are powerful, right? Any of you never experienced any of those? That's very telling. It's very telling that every human being on this planet has experienced depression, anxiety, overwhelm, self-righteousness, fear. That means it's a gift, not a curse. It's a blessing, not a punishment. So I truly believe that those of us, human beings on the spiritual path, have to begin to use language and experience in a different way. We have to look at it in a different way. I'm teaching flourishing with the Greater Philadelphia Center for Spiritual Living, and one of the students, and I'm sure she doesn't mind that I shared, she's in her 80s, and she said, you know what I just figured out? She said, I just figured out that all I have to do is be kind to myself. She said, I thought in his teaching I had to keep cursing myself into being more evolved. Right? And I get it because I've been there. But it doesn't work. It just makes us suffer more because it magnifies. And so what happens? We get to notice what happens when we're struggling, when we're hard on ourselves, when we feel anxious, when we get depressed, when we feel self-righteous. In that moment, it's a moment that is rich with the potential of deep remembrance that you are already loved and lovable. In that moment, especially. And so what brings you back? When you stray, what brings you back?
Faith.
Faith.
Hope.
Hope.
Meditation.
Meditation.
Affirmation.
Affirmations.
Sunday celebration.
Self-love. Sunday celebration.
Yoga.
Yoga. Music.
Animals.
Animals.
Nature.
Nature.
Kids.
So you all have a really long list now. Did you write it down in case you forget next time? You can just go to that list. I have a spiritual first aid kit. It's crystal clear. It's on page 1 of my current journal. If I forget, all I have to do is go to that list. And there's always something on there that works, right? And so the invitation is to go deeper into our spiritual practices, to reach out to a practitioner or a prayer partner, to read something that lifts your spirit, to meditate, to treat, to do yoga, to go for a walk, to go for a run, just to do something different. I want to read something really powerful to you. It's a little bit lengthy, but it's very inspiring, I find. This is a comment by a Hopi Indian leader whose name is White Eagle, on the current world situation. This moment that humanity is experiencing now can be considered a door or a hole. The decision to fall into the hole, stray, or walk through the door, stay in spirit, belongs to you. If you consume the information 24 hours a day with negative energy, constantly nervous with pessimism, you will fall into this hole. But if you take this opportunity to look at yourself, to rethink life and death, to take care of yourself and others, then you will go through the portal. Take care of your home. Take care of your body. Connect with your spiritual home. When you take care of yourself, you take care of everyone at the same time. Do not underestimate the spiritual dimension of this crisis. Take perspective of an eagle who sees everything from above with a wider view. There's a social demand in this crisis, but also a spiritual demand. Both go hand in hand. Without the social dimension, we will fall into fanaticism. Without the spiritual dimension, we fall into pessimism and futility. You are ready to go through this crisis. Grab your toolbox and use all the tools available. Learn the resistance of the example of Indian and African peoples. We have been and are still being exterminated. But we never stopped singing, dancing, lighting a fire, and having joy. Don't feel guilty for feeling blessed or lucky during these times. Being sad or angry doesn't help at all. Resistance is resistance through joy. You have a right to be strong and positive, and there's no other way to do this but to maintain a beautiful, joyful, and bright posture. This has nothing to do with alienation, ignorance of the world. This is a resistance strategy. When we walk through the door, we have a new world view because we faced our fears and hardships. That's all you can do now. Serenity in the storm. Keep calm, pray daily. Make the habit of meeting the sacred every day. Show resistance through art, joy, trust, and love. May love, peace, and joy fill your hearts. Isn't that beautiful?
That's beautiful. What's the book?
It's not a book, it was just a writing. I'll get you a copy. It's a Hopi Indian leader named White Eagle. It was on Facebook, so great place to find great readings. So what we remember today is that within you and I, there is a divine urge to express life. There's a divine urge in each of us to express more life. We are each instruments and channels of the divine. We are here to express as channels of the divine, each of us in our own unique way. So we cannot look to anyone else. Because our way is our own way, and it requires that we listen and stay tuned in. We have to remember that we are the activity of the divine. What I have learned is that my life reveals how much I trust God. My life reveals from moment to moment to moment how much I trust God. If you don't like the word God, change it right now to spirit, divine love, grace, the infinite presence. My life shows me where I trust this essence, this purity of life, the divine presence, infinite love already within me, or not. So when I struggle and suffer, what I'm saying is, God, I don't really trust you. I'm on my own here and I got to figure it out all by myself. And that's the biggest lie we tell ourselves. So it's important for us to remember that we're never broken. All the beliefs you carry that you're broken are big lies and big blocks. I remember dating the most exquisite man in Albany. And he said he was exquisite. His name was Oscar Best. He was 6'5", beautiful African-American man. He was hot. And an addict. But that's another story. So he said to me, so Frankie Timmers, tell me who you are. Tell me about you. Well, I've been broken a lot in my life. And he says, that's the most boring thing I've ever heard. Who isn't? And I have never forgotten that. I think it's the only reason why I had to meet him. To remind me that you and I are not our brokenness. Our brokenness is the portal to healing. Are we using it as such, or are we keeping up the story of our brokenness? Right? And so we can choose to not be tossed around on the waves of the ocean, or to go deeper and to remember that healing is at hand. We are here to trust that there is sacred nature and all of life, essence of life, essence of divine love. Because it is the law that doeth the work. It is the spirit within that doeth the work. Do we believe that? Can we trust that? And then we do everything we can to stay on spirit, to stay in remembrance, knowing, expecting that we're going to stray. It's the dance of being a human being. It's going to happen, and not use it against us. Instead of going, oh, you're such a stupid person. How could you let that happen? No, it's like, it's all right. It's all right. We're getting closer to remembering. It's not going to happen again in the same way. I am worthy to love myself through this challenge. And then, when we remember, we can learn a few things. There is a whole bunch of things I will never do again that I've done in the past. Ways I speak to myself, ways I treat myself, and I know that that's true for you as well, or you would not be sitting in these chairs. So celebrate that. It is worthy of celebration. It's worthy of a little cheerleading coming from you. Because everything in life is a gift. Everything. And a blessing. And the more we can say, yay, to those blessings, the more free we are, the more we can let go of resistance, the more we can trust ourselves and life, but most of all, we can trust the divine presence that has governed life since the beginning of time and will be forevermore. And isn't that exquisite? Isn't that exquisite that that's available for us? And that if we forget to choose that, it's okay. The choice will come around again. And so it is. All right. So, just a little reminder that tomorrow Michael is teaching the Heart Chakra Workshop. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, that means you're not reading our emails. You might want to, because there's lots of goodies in there every week. And the flyer is on the back table if you want the Breeze link to register. There's also some flyers up there because next weekend we have our first big live in-person event. It's not recorded, it's not on Zoom, it's not on Facebook, it's not on, where else do we go? YouTube, but it's going to be Bob Sima and Shannon Plummer. And the concert is going to be amazing because Bob is a powerful musician. And that's from 7 to 9. I'll be here. And And then Saturday, there's a 2-hour workshop called Then Sings My Soul Workshop. And the workshop is about the journey to silencing the inner critic. Nobody here needs that. And amplifying the still small voice. That's from 2 to 4. I'll be here for that as well. You need to register online for this event. And the Breeze link is on the flyer. And if you get the weekly email, the link is there. It's very easy. And then on Sunday, Bob and Shannon will facilitate the Sunday celebration. So we got a whole weekend with them. Ooh. They're driving up from Florida. That's going to be a rare event because they don't come up anymore as much because they've moved from Maryland to Florida. So it's going to be a one-time thing. It probably won't happen for another year. So come and join us and invite your friends, your family, share it on social media if you can't make it. Let's fill the house. And I think that's it. Let's close with a healing treatment. And then we have a little more music with Monica and Bien. No? No Bien?
Just me. Just me.
Just Monica. Just Monica. All right, so close your eyes. Take that breath. Take that breath of, oh, this journey of mine. Wow, what a dance it has been. What a dance it continues to be, and what a dance that I can choose to surrender to and experience from a place of all is for me and love is available as the soothing salve to some of my experiences that I still interpret as suffering or struggle. I know that I am ever growing, ever expanding in consciousness, and just remember that when I say I, my, me, I speak from and to the higher self in each and every one of us. And so I embrace this journey called life. I may take a peek at all the conditions that are happening around me, in me, and for me, but I choose to look deeper and see that I can trust the universal presence with my heart, with my mind, with my body, with my soul, with my life. And so how could anything ever happen against me? It's impossible in a spiritual universe. It's in this human, material universe of form that I may interpret things as against me. But today, that comes to an end. Today, I choose to see through the eyes of love, to trust Spirit in me, with my life, with all of my experiences, and to know that everything is happening for me and for my good. It's really for the evolution of my soul. So I choose to be conscious, I choose to be aware, and I choose to reflect until I find the treasures. And there are many. And each one, each discovery lifts me up and allows me to see that life is an incredible blessing and a gift, and that I've been blessed with abundance, with creativity, with health, with joy, with grace, and with serving my purpose. And if there's room for more, I'm willing to listen and I'm willing to hear. Again, with love, compassion, patience, and grace. If there's anything that is in the way, if I need to know about it, it will come to me with ease and grace. If I don't need to know about it, it simply dissolves. And I am more free than ever to continue this path of life with courage, with strength, with grace, and with compassion. And so it is.
And so it is.